Welcome back to the Halifax Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Jason Paul, licensed realtor, team lead at the Infinity Real Estate Group at eXp Realty in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I'm here to help you gain a better understanding of real estate in Halifax. Hit that subscribe button, and the Halifax Real Estate Podcast is now on Discord, where I break down our upcoming guests, topics, and hopefully create a little more engagement with you guys so you can have your questions answered as well. Now back to the show. In part two of today's two-part podcast with Ammanuel Shiferaw, Manny had actually reached out to come back on the Halifax Real Estate Podcast before part one was released. This is because Manny and his real estate partners have actually taken possession of their first investment outside of Canada, which is an apartment building in Cleveland, Ohio. We're going to break down Manny's experience and results with investing in another country. Enjoy. There you go. We're all good. Manny, how are you?
I'm doing good, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's been... What, four or 5 months?
April? 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months.
4 months. And I haven't released a podcast since.
No, you haven't. And I've been on your butt, but now I understand why there's been a delay. But
Part two. This is part two. Welcome back for part two.
Thank you.
You bought our apartment building.
Yes, so that 24 unit that we talked about in the last podcast, we closed it. Then I bought another one, and then we're about to buy another one this week. So it's gone crazy.
Hold on. So in that podcast, neighbor, you're talking about buying a 24 unit in Cleveland.
Correct.
You've bought that and another one since?
Another one. Yep, 38 units. We closed on that one about 2 weeks ago.
So total, fuck math, 72 units?
Yep, and then we're closing on another 38 next week. So it'll be 100 units in Cleveland in like 5 months.
You're the new LeBron. You're the king.
Yeah. Our property managers are actually based in Akron, and he's investing billions down there. So
no way.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool investing near somewhere that LeBron's actively putting his own
capital into.
Yep.
Okay, it's been 120 days.
Yeah.
Right? Roughly since we last were here.
Mm-hmm.
So in 120 days, you're gonna accumulate almost a unit a day.
Man, essentially, that's what it seems like, isn't it?
So okay, walk me through the 23 unit, because that was where we were at last time.
Yep.
So we talked about what made you go to America, but remind the audience, why'd you look at America?
Yeah. So some quick reasons: landlord friendly, very landlord friendly market compared to Canada
and Halifax.
Lots of opportunity down there. So like the inventory is a little higher. There's obviously tax benefits to investing in the States.
Everyone knows the 1003 exchange.
Big one right there. And
or 1030 exchange.
1031.
1031, yeah.
1031.
I knew it was something.
Which is just for anyone that's listening. When you sell a building, you get exempt from capital gains tax as long as you go purchase another building.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing for people that are trying to scale up. Those are the big ones right there. Honestly, the landlord friendly. The tax benefits.
Landlord friendly is the big one.
Oh, also, another big one. Friggin' the price per door. Very, very, very affordable. Yeah. That might be the most important one.
Well, how much you pay for the 23 unit?
1.35 mil. And they're all 3-bed, 1-bath, 24 units. It's a big building.
Big building. 3-bed, 1 bath.
All of them.
All of them. So you're looking at 1,000, 1,200 square feet a unit?
About 1,200, exactly. Yeah.
About 1,200, yeah. And then, so 24 units.
24. Man, it's huge.
For $1.3 million.
1.35 USD.
So what'd you pay in Canadian? Like, what was the conversion?
Like 1.7-ish.
Okay, so 1.7. For argument's sake here, right? Because we're in the Halifax Real Estate Podcast. Good luck buying a 24 unit. 1.7 million in Halifax.
If you took this building and just picked it up and dropped it anywhere in HRM, 5, 6. I mean, I don't know, man. Someone might ask $10 million because like the rents could be like $2,500 pop, right? So it's like this is gonna be very valuable.
How much are the rents?
So we bought them, and they were all around the $750 range. Market could have been around 11. That was our goal. We are now getting quotes closer to 14, which is blowing out our projections out of the water. So it takes the deal from being like a perfect burr, really great deal to like, holy smokes, this thing's about to print us some money.
Yeah. Okay. So your acquisition was 1.3.
Yep. 3.5.
1.35. 750 a door was what it was at.
Yep.
What have you done to, because 24 units is a lot to renovate. So what have you guys done to get that rent up to 1,100 projection, but now you're getting 1,400?
Yeah. So man, nothing crazy. So what we've done so far is just like very cosmetic renovations.
Define cosmetic, because like some people like I want to be
specific.
Yeah, because we're here to talk about you buying these apartment buildings. So let's get into the minutia of it. When you say cosmetic, are we talking floors and paint, or are we talking kitchens and bathrooms?
All of that, but we're not. So when I say cosmetic renos, we're not taking any walls down.
I love that.
So this is not.
Don't do that. From a friend to a friend. Done it. Been there.
Exactly.
Done it. Fuck.
In fact, this is an older building too. So if we were to take the walls down,
bring them up to code.
Oh,
yeah,
man, we'd have our renovation budget would probably quadruple. That's how.
Leave them alone.
We're leaving them alone. So the thing is, we're spending like $10,000 a unit, which is like to get new paint, flooring, and just like some new cabinets.
$230K.
That's like how much? Yeah, man.
$240K.
Renovation costs in the States, especially in Cleveland, much more affordable than here. Way more. I feel like it's because just the cost of the materials is way cheaper, and labor is way cheaper compared
Mexicans?
To Mexicans. Sorry. No, we're a little too far from the border. But it's just, I don't know, because there's more workers, there's bigger population, different contractors down there. We're here. Like I'm preaching to the choir here, but like to do what we're doing, it might cost best case scenario $25,000 a door or a unit to kind of turn it over.
$25,000 a door puts you're looking at $500,600K.
And we're talking like just like basic stuff.
Yeah. So you're talking like we're changing flooring.
Yep.
We're painting the unit fresh coat of paint.
Correct.
Cabinets, we're probably doing a fresh coat of paint and maybe new hardware.
That's it.
Bathrooms, paint, maybe a vanity change.
Yeah, just touch up the caulking, just make sure everything looks nice and and it could attract that better tenant.
$10K a unit.
Crazy.
So it's okay. Now, how did you finance the building? What was the terms?
A bridge loan. So I think it was a 3-year term, 10.49% interest rate, but interest only payments. And they're actually giving us 70% of the renovation costs.
Okay. What's your monthly payment on it?
About 10 G's right now.
What'd you put down to purchase it?
25% down.
25% down. Okay, so 1.35, 25%, 300, 350?
Approximately. Well, geez, I'm thinking back now. It was a little bit more because we had to raise. It was about 400. 400
So let's just say 400 US. 400 US dollars. Okay, cool. Plus 250 for the 10K per unit. So you're at 650 USD, right?
Essentially, but we're kind of raising the renovation costs as we go because we need to raise, like, for every 10,000 we raise, the lender gives us 7 back because they're funding 70% of the renovations.
Yeah. Okay. And it's important we go into the fact that you're raising because not a lot of people, most amateur, when we're talking to the audience about this and talking about people doing renovations, they think, where do they get this money from?
Exactly.
Who has pockets.
Exactly. Someone.
Yeah. How do you raise capital, right? So we'll say you're $400K, 2 plus the number 230 per 10 per dollar, minus 70%, math again, looking at $150, $160 paid for by the bank. So you need another $70K for you guys to raise.
Yep.
But even then, you bought it 135, you're in for less than 50%. So you're right now you're at 470 because 400K down payment, 70K for your own renovation costs because the bank's not funding all of it. Mm-hmm. You've paid 470, let's say 500K. So less than 50%. What's your ARV after renovation value for the audience?
Man, north of 3, probably about 3.2. And honestly, if we hit like 14 for every single unit, if you want to talk like actual percentages, if you hit 14 per actual unit, you're at 92% increase because you're at 750, right? Yeah.
And that number 92% I just pulled out of my ass because it's not. If it was 1,500, it's 100% increase because you times it by 2.
Yeah, before someone with
a calculator that was at all this math I am doing off the top of my head, ballparking it. Don't quote me, but like let's just say 90%, 92%, right?
Yep.
All within. When did you close?
Middle of May.
Power Real Estate.
Power of real estate.
Power of real estate.
Leverage and partners, man. You can do anything.
Leverage and partners and managing debt. If you can manage debt well, because you're, like you said, you're paying $10K, right? And
that's our mortgage right now.
That's your mortgage right now, right? How much you're to all in expenses? Where are you paying on the unit for the building? All in. Just think about it. For maintenance and property managers and mortgage and everything.
The property managers get 10% of the gross rents.
So 11,000.
About 11,000, and the tenants pay their own power and heat. So all we're paying is water, and then like heat for the common areas and power for the common areas. So
even let's say worst case, because we're being really high on it, $15K a month. Let's just say $15K a month, right? Mm-hmm. $750 a door times 23.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Times that by 10, you're at 7,500. Times that by 20, you're at 1,500. You're at 15,000, right? You add the extra 3 units, you're at 1,800, 18,000. Now, double it.
There we go. That's the plan, you know? And like on the buy, we had some vacancies, so we were just breaking even.
Yep.
And now we've filling these vacancies.
Full occupancy.
Yeah. But like we're in the middle of turning over a lot of units, so it's like we're full at the moment.
Okay.
Like, even though like we haven't actually had the tenants move in yet, but we have people that are ready to go in.
Okay.
And as they come in, we're in the middle of a couple of evictions from like non-paying tenants and just, you know, some people that have been there for a while that low rents, but also just not paying rent. You know, so we're in the middle of turning over it's a big transition. Huge. In this building where it's located, it's really like a C+ area. So if you're listening,
so you bought in North End Dartmouth.
North End? No. Let me tell you, there's some spots in Cleveland that actually, man, there's some rough spots in Cleveland that make North End Dartmouth seem like the freaking South End.
I said C+. I didn't say D or F-.
No, because I would say like, what would you rate North End Dartmouth?
Right now, in terms of desirability, you know, I'm being harsh on North End. I'm probably going to rate a B because it's so close to Peninsula. Just because of its proximity to Halifax. If
that's a B, then what we have is a B. we're 5 minutes from the Cleveland Clinic, the biggest hospital, 5 minutes from the State University.
Okay.
And the area itself, you know, even though it's a little rougher, it's actively getting better. You can literally see development happening in every single corner.
What you're describing is North End Halifax 10 years ago.
Essentially. That's the plan. That's the plan. We're buying it like I said, it's a C+ now. But in 5 years or maybe 10 years, if we ever are to exit it and sell it off, now it's a B+ area.
Yeah.
The cap rate's obviously compressed and the value's gone up quite a bit.
I'm assuming you're burring.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So have you executed the burr already, or are you still waiting to do it?
Oh no, yeah, we're still going. Like this is probably an 18-month plan.
18 months.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting because a lot of people don't plan their life out a year and a half in advance. You're already looking at a year and a half in advance for a business strategy.
100%. I plan my year up 10 years in advance. in our business, yeah, 100%. Like this one is an 18-month burr. The other two that we're buying, they're probably like 3 to 5 year holds. When you get into these bigger buildings, they take a little bit more time to turn over and do what you got to do.
You're renovating 24 units. It's not a duplex.
It's not. Even though we're actually getting through the renovations pretty quickly, because we're not going crazy, right?
You're doing cosmetic. Cosmetic is
2-3 weeks.
If you've got a good painter with a good roller who knows what they're doing, it's a day a unit.
Yep. And we have some strong property managers down there that they have an in-house team that's kind of handling all of this.
And they're taking only 10%.
Only 10%. It's going to go down.
It's going to go down.
It's going to go down because at scale, because if you think about it, these guys are going to have 100 units of ours to manage. So that's a lot of revenue.
Have you negotiated that in the contract?
We're in talks, right?
Okay.
The current property manager has told me, he's like, yeah, of course, we'll go down. You know, we haven't talked about the exact numbers, but it's going to go down quite a bit.
Well, yeah, because you're delivering 100 doors.
100 doors. And not only that, we have, like me and my partner Thomas, we have a lot of Canadian investors that are trying to buy specifically in Cleveland. And like if we can just go ahead and funnel all of our potential investors to this one property management company, their business is going to just explode because of us.
Exactly. You should be able to get a good discount off of that.
That's what we think.
Okay. Wholesaling, right? If I'm buying 1,000 mattresses from you, I'm not paying market floor for one. Exactly. I want to discount a lot of significant discount because you're getting a big chunk of change.
Exactly.
Typical negotiations. I want to focus on this building though because I'm not done quite yet. You've mentioned something about buying in America. Landlord, great. fucking renovation sounds fantastic. As someone going through a renovation in Wolfville, Nova Scotia right now, I can tell you right now, I wish it was $10,000. How are you finding managing it from home? Because you live in Halifax. How far is the flight to Cleveland?
Funny, it's not that far. So it's just from here to Toronto, which is what, hour and a half?
Hour and a half,
yeah. Then it's only like an hour and a half from Toronto. But now the trick is just getting connecting flights that all line up.
Yeah.
So best case scenario, you can probably get there within 4 or 5 hours.
Okay. So 4 or 5. So you leave at 9, you're there by 2.
Yeah. If again, perfect. Like
perfect.
If my plane leaves at 8:30.
Listen,
sure.
We're talking about perfect world where nothing ever exists.
Yeah. Or if you live in Ontario, obviously a lot of your listeners are in Halifax, but if you live in Toronto, it's just like a 4-hour drive.
You don't know where my listeners are. I'm just fucking.
That's true. That's true. If you have Toronto listeners, you're only 4 hours away. If you have Cleveland investors that are listening, it's probably down the road.
Cleveland's not looking to us to invest. They just heard us shit talk. Anyway, how are you finding it managing a renovation, acquisition, renovation, all from away? Because a lot of people are very intimidated by idea. Because we come across this all the time in Halifax, where Halifax, you can argue, is no longer investable. You said that on part 1. I've talked to other people who say that all the time now because let's say on MLS, we talked about a 23-unit building in Halifax being $5-6 million. That's incomprehensible to an investor to acquire that on MLS. You can get a duplex right now in Halifax for $1 million. That's incomprehensible because it doesn't cash flow. It's not a cash flow positive asset. You're hoping for equity gains when the market's already peaked. Right. That sounds like a bad business model. So you've looked away, which intimidates a lot of people. Like people don't even want to look at Moncton. Don't even want to look at St. John, New Brunswick. They don't even want to look at Newfoundland, which is a great place to invest in Canada right now. So how are you handling it being away so far?
Well, I don't want to talk poorly, but I feel like a lot of people that think like that, they are not running a business, you know?
Yeah.
Like real estate investing for me, it's a business.
Okay.
And we have a building in the States that we bought for obviously many reasons, like I mentioned, and we have hired a property manager to oversee the management of it. And now our roles as the owners is to manage the property managers.
Yep.
So we have weekly calls with them, and they update us on what's going on. They have my property manager has an assistant, and she talks to us almost every day. She sends us emails, and she updates us and asks us our opinion on things. I won't lie though, we've had some challenges, of course. You know, things pop up. Some units were in worse shape than we expected. Some tenants are being a little bit more difficult. But these are just little obstacles that you overcome. Like any investment strategy where you can make, north of 10% return, there's going to be risk. So we took this risk to buy this asset in the States because we think that overall it's much more predictable investing in the States versus, the uncertainty of the environment here in Halifax right now. But it hasn't been too bad. It's like it's just manage the property manager. That's our role. That's our job. And we make sure they're doing their job. And before we bought the building, we did our due diligence on the property managers to make sure that they could handle the scale, to make sure they had the track record, to make sure they had their own systems in place. I had a chat with this one lady, lovely lady. I forget her name, man. But she's like, I manage 4 units. I can take on this 24.
How many?
4.
Okay.
I didn't know, right? I just made a post in a Cleveland group looking for a property manager. She's like, oh, I can do it. I'm like, lady, how can you do this? You don't have anything in place, right? So these guys that are property managers, they themselves are investors. They own 100 units. They manage 200 units. We're about to make it 300 units for them to manage. So like they have teams. It's not just one guy. It's like 4 guys and an assistant. They're creating a big thing there in Cleveland. They want to expand and grow. So these are professionals that we've entrusted this building with, and they're doing a good job. So I don't want to say it's been easy, but managing them is much easier than overseeing everything from afar. It would be impossible. I don't have the connections. I'd have to go down there, honestly. Me and Ian or Thomas, we'd have to stay in Cleveland and oversee all of this if we didn't have property managers.
100%.
And that's not what we're here to do.
Okay, you mentioned a few things that are really interesting. When you say you were qualifying the property manager, what specifically what were you looking for to qualify them as the right partner for you that made sense?
So a big one is just having experience in managing this type of building. Number 2 is having some sort of renovation or construction crew like on their team all ready to go.
In-house.
Because now The moment we bought the building, we had 5 vacancies. They got to work right away.
Yeah.
There was no delay. And of course, they have a project management fee, and we were able to negotiate. Little things. Those are the 2 big ones. And you get when you meet somebody. So when me and Ian were in Cleveland, we got to meet them. We got to walk the building with them. You just get a vibe from someone like this. These guys are solid.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you got to trust your gut, because they could have had the perfect resume, but then we could have met them and they could have been a little sketchy. It's like, okay, sorry guys, we have to go with somebody else type of thing. But we got good vibes from them right away. So after like one building, we really liked what they were doing. Like we were kind of using that first 24 unit just as like can they handle this before we give them the other 76 that's about to close, and everything's going smoothly. And now we're taking them on to like this 38 unit that we just closed on. We were expecting $1,000 rents. Not only did they get 1,000 immediately, almost like days after we closed, we had a call with them today. Said, guys, you should be asking for 12. So it's like, all right, let's go for 1,200. And now we were pushing for 1,200. So they're getting us more money than we wanted. So
if that doesn't make it a good partnership.
Exactly. And we talked about even like working together in the future to buy buildings, because they live there. They're investors themselves. So like if they come across something,
they're on the pulse.
They're on the way better than us.
Yeah, you live in Halifax. You can't you don't know what's coming because you're not in it.
Exactly.
They're in it every day. They have other networks that they go to. They also go out for beers with people in their industry. Yeah. And you learn a lot by going for a beer in your industry. Big time.
And obviously, we can fly down for a beer, but it's a lot. So little things like that. So it worked. I don't want to speak too soonly, but like so far it's been going real smoothly with our partnership with them.
Okay. Now, I was curious, you mentioned there was one thing in there that I found fascinating. You meet with them weekly.
We have a Zoom call every single week.
Single week. And in that Zoom call, do they provide you with a preliminary report of everything, how everything's going, or do they verbally tell you? Like, how do you keep track of everything?
So they do give us like weekly PDFs, so we get to see stuff. But then on that call, we'll go over that and just other stuff that pops up.
Awesome.
Questions that we may have that it's better to just discuss instead of an email.
How long is the Zoom call?
Half hour. Maybe if sometimes it goes long, 45 an hour.
See, the only reason I'm asking this stuff is because like, it's really great for people to realize how when you hire correctly and when you build a proper business with proper systems in place, how little time you actually have to put in. Because you've just talked about 1.35 purchase, 3.2 refi, renting $750, getting $1,400 after a $10K investment. That's really good margins for any investor. So to understand what you're talking about, if you're talking about a refi in the States, I don't know if it's the same as Canada, but in Canada, it's 80%. If I buy a house for $100K and I do a 20K renovation and it's worth $200K, I can take out 80% of that value in a line of credit and I get access to that capital tax-free, because loans aren't taxed, debt's not taxed. I can take that new value and apply it to another thing, right? If that works, if that's the same in America where they allow 80%, I'm not sure if it's 75 or it's 70 or what the margins are, but even if it's closest, even if it's 70% of 3.2 million,
it's a lot.
It's fuck you money. Yeah. You can go out now and acquire 38.
Yeah, we can pay back our investors with a whole lot of extra, and then we still have a cash flowing asset for the life of the deal until we ever sell it.
Okay. Cleveland's been a big hit.
Yep.
We've done the 24. Mm-hmm. You've managed that. It's going swimmingly.
Yes.
38. Was that on the market at the same time as the 24? Or did that come to market?
I think it came to market.
Maybe
a month later.
Where? C+ area?
Nope. This is a better area. This
A+.
is no, I wish. No, this is like a solid B+ area. It's in Bedford, Ohio, which is still Cleveland.
We moved to Bedford, Nova Scotia. Going from North End Dartmouth to Bedford, Nova Scotia.
So this is Bedford, Ohio, which is just a suburb of Cleveland.
Okay.
20 minutes from our other building. And so I guess I can just talk about both 38 units because they're both owned by the same seller.
Okay.
They're just maybe like a mile away from each other. And we were able to just close on the first one.
Yep.
And then we're going to close on the other one next week.
Next week, so we're recording August 31st, so September 6th.
September 6th, that's the plan.
Okay.
Yep. And again, we have all the loans. We have the cash ready to go. It's just lenders.
It's always lenders.
Oh, man. Yeah, we'll talk about that on another podcast. But lending has been with the 24 pretty straightforward, but with these next two, I don't know what's been going on with the lenders. So like we have like a title company in the States. So like in Canada, the seller has a lawyer and the buyer has a lawyer, and the lawyers talk to each other.
Yep.
In the States, when you buy something, there's no lawyers involved per se. Like you can have a lawyer to guide you with corp stuff, but like for the actual transaction, it's a title company, and those aren't lawyers, and it's one title company for the buyer and seller, and they manage the transaction. And there must have just been a disconnect between our title company and then the lender, and then there was actually someone even in between there that kind of packages up the loan and sells it to the lender, so that there's like 3 levels to it, and there was just a mess in between. And our other partner Thomas, he was the one really dealing with all of that because he's the primary on the loan, and God bless Thomas for handling all of that, because it seemed like it was a headache, because honestly it was just incompetence.
Okay.
Like Thomas read out the email he sent up to me that he sent to them, because he was just like ripping into them, because like they were just screwing us here. It's been months. We should have closed this deal like a month and a half ago, but because of just this back and forth issues, we didn't close on time. Anyways, long story short, we closed with just a bridge loan, and then we're going to refinance into another loan in the coming weeks, and it's going to be we can talk about those loans too, man. Crazy loans.
Well, bring it on. Let's talk about crazy loans.
So the loan that we closed on, just a bridge, it's like maybe 11% interest only. But again, we just did it to close fast.
Yep.
And now we're going to refinance into another loan that's like 6.5% interest.
Better.
Interest only. So it's like our mortgage payment's like 10 grand, and it's already netting like 27 on the buy. And then the goal is to really push that up to about 35. Of course, there's expenses and stuff, but come on. Like if your rent rolls, 35 grand and your mortgage is 10, that's 25 G's spread. We've done the math. It's about 14K cash flow once it's stabilized.
About 14K cash flow.
Yeah. Crazy numbers.
Now, okay, you've mentioned investors. Mm-hmm. Okay, so on the 24 unit, how many hands are in the pot?
So people with money involved, there was like 3 of them.
No, we're talking about. What my question is like, yes, for the money involved, but I'm more so asking for like
the active
the profit. Mm-hmm. So the profit. How many people are splitting up that profit? How many hands are taking a piece of that profit a piece? You know what I mean? So like after you mentioned 10K, then 35K rent roll, so you're making 25K profit. How many people per se are taking a portion of that 25K profit?
So in that deal, it's 50-50. So 50 for the investors and 50 for the active partners.
Okay.
And on the active side, it's just me, Ian, and Thomas. And then on the passive side, I myself actually put some money into it, and then a buddy of mine, and then 3 other people. So 4 people that aren't me
on the passive side.
On the passive side.
Okay.
Passive, they still have some small things, but like they don't do a whole lot.
They're on a Zoom call once a week for 30 minutes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. That's not a lot of hands in the pot. So if 25K by 4, you're looking at 6,250 a piece.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
American?
American. And then on the other one, the 38 unit, it's a few more people involved. I forget the exact number off the top of my head. Because
like when you raise money, and I'm bringing this up for a good reason. My reason for this is because when you raise money, it's more hands in the pot, right? Yeah. It's more people who can take, like all these numbers sound fantastic when you say them out loud. I bought at 1.35. I'm refining at 3.2. I'm paying a $10,000 mortgage, but I'm making 35K in rent rolls. I'm getting 25K profit. It all sounds amazing, but then you get down to how you manage to able finances, because right now you're saying from me as one human. One human doesn't have you don't have that much money to fuck around with to go do everything we talked about. So there's raising capital, joint venture. This is how you raise money to acquire new buildings and bigger buildings and scalability. You can't do it alone. I don't care what you say. So there's more hands in the pot. It's just I'm just trying to give the listener an idea of what a deal actually looks like on the back end when all the money is being dispersed. Mm-hmm. Because right now, if we're talking about at face value, it sounds like you just made a shit ton of money.
No.
The partnerships,
yes,
the investors, which is why they're investing their capital.
They made a lot of money.
That's how you're acquiring. That's how you're scaling. But that's how you get in the door so that you can be your own financier down the road.
Yep.
Right. I just want to make sure that's clear, just so that everyone understands what the finances actually look like.
No, it's true. And then our other 38 unit that we're closing next week, we have 2 investors. Just like I think they're brothers, and they just had like they had a lot of money. Anyways.
Good for them.
And they just deployed that. So we actually gave them 60% of the deal because it's just 2 guys now that we're managing.
Yep.
As opposed to, a handful.
Yep.
And that's good. That deal's also going to go swimmingly as well.
So within 120 days,
100 doors.
100 doors.
Yep.
You're like, you should go on Bigger Pockets. You're
Man,
like,
I applied. I applied.
You sound like it just, it's funny because like you hear, this is where you hear most real estate investors try to get to is like, I want to acquire some astronomical goal. If I want to acquire a door a day, or I want to acquire 300 doors in a year. It's just some number that you can't quite fathom because acquiring a door in Canada is so difficult.
Yeah, man. A duplex is impressive, anything. you buy real estate, I'm proud of you. It's good.
It's hard to do, especially in like the market now we're in Halifax and Nova Scotia. So like when you hear people say these numbers of I want to acquire X amount of doors in X amount of time, it's hard to fathom. It's hard to wrap your head around it. So I remember on part 1, you had said, we're looking to buy a building now. Well, 4 months later, you're back. And I want to make this clear. Kudos to you because you're the one that said you wanted to come back and update.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, so much has changed. I'm like, someone's going to listen to that podcast and be like, oh, he's still trying to buy 24. He's doing okay in the States. But it's like, no, man, we're doing some cool stuff down there. So I feel like your listeners should know.
What have you found the difference between investing in America and investing in Canada?
Obviously, okay, like I'm painting like a beautiful photo here for your listeners. There's obviously some hurdles.
We need the ugly.
Yeah, just making sure you have like a good accountant. Like number 1, you need an accountant and a good lawyer, because if your corporations aren't set up properly and you have an accountant that doesn't really understand the intricacies of cross-border investing, you can really screw yourself when tax time comes around. So that's number 1. And your listeners, they can reach out to me. I can refer them to a good lawyer or a good accountant to help them. So that'd be number 1.
Name a number in the notes, guys. Name a number in the notes.
Because it's so important. And there's just again like it depends on what you're doing down there. Like if you're going after big deals, like making sure you have good partners, people that you trust and like you can go to war with if stuff goes wrong is important, because when stuff goes poorly, that's when you really find out the kind of people you're around, right? So it's like if we had a saying in I played soccer. I played competitive soccer growing up, and we had a saying when we got to like men's soccer, we'd have guys try out and they look really good in tryouts and they'd look really good in practice, and we'd always say it's not real till we see them in the game. Yeah, because it's not real till you see them in the shit. It's like in basketball at the start of games you have like layup lines.
Yeah. Everyone can make a layup.
Just jamming and doing cool stuff, and then you get into the game and they can't hit a shot, right? So it's just exactly the
let's
same.
see when it actually when there's pressure on.
Yeah, and then another thing too, just like financing these bigger buildings in the States, it's not straightforward just for Canadians. Like this is only happening because of our partner Thomas, and he's a dual citizen. Yeah. So like he has a citizenship in the States, and that's why we're able to get these loans. Whereas like if me and you just went to go buy a 24 unit, we're just a couple of foreign aliens. They don't know anything about us. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast too. So, but at the same time, I think there's 2 entryways into the States that any Canadian can kind of tap into. Like number 1 is you can buy a 1 to 4 unit, no problem. Like Canadians can get loans easy, 70% down, 70% LTV. So usually 30% down. You can get some cool interest only loans. No problem. You can do that. Buy a few buildings, develop a track record, do your taxes a few times. Now you can go into the bigger stuff. Or 2, if you have some cash or you have something of value to an investor, offer your services and partner with people that are already doing it.
That's a really key point. What's your value add? Big time. Obviously the easiest one for anyone that has money is like, hey, I have some cash that's just sitting here. I'd like to partner with you guys. Yeah. I like the returns that you're doing. I like your scalability. Can I invest? And it's like, hell yeah. Well, maybe. we'll talk. Hell yeah. No, let's do some due diligence.
Or it's like, hey, I have a skill. I'm extremely proficient at underwriting. Can I underwrite all your guys' deals? Or I'm extremely good at raising cash. Can I raise cash for you guys? Or, everyone has something, right? So it's just like being really good at something and offering your services to somebody that's already doing this. another way of getting involved.
Yep.
With, if you don't have much money to kind of deploy. So that's kind of how I would suggest anyone get involved. And it all comes down to your own personal goals. Like, what do you want out of this? Do you want to own a few 4-plexes, 3-plexes all by yourself, or like, do you want to scale this shit up to like 1,000 units? Do you want to own like a small piece of a giant ass watermelon with some other cool people, or do you want to, have your whole little grape to yourself?
Hey man,
it's whatever you want.
It's whatever you want.
And I'm not saying either one is better than the other.
No.
Obviously, I have my preference.
You have your grape, but you also want a watermelon.
I would like a piece of a watermelon.
Yeah.
That's my main focus, right? So, and that's just me.
Yeah.
And that's for my own personality, because some people just don't have the personality to work in partnerships. Some dudes are just lone wolves.
Oh, do I know that?
And that's just their thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you can be successful as a lone wolf, but in my opinion, if you can find a pack of wolves, that'll always defeat the lone wolf.
I mean, you're always better in tribes.
Yes.
Now, here's an interesting question, because we mentioned this on the last podcast, and we're recording on August 31st today. Tomorrow, the HRM short-term rental bylaws come out. We've stated that Halifax is not landlord friendly. We're currently in a housing crisis. There's a lot of conversations around a landlord registration system in the city of Halifax. There's a lot of things going on against landlords in general due to the perception of landlords in today's real estate market in the city because of our housing crisis. How have you, because you mentioned it casually, you're going through termination of leases and eviction notices in America. How are you finding a landlord-friendly state to operate in as a landlord compared to operating as a landlord in Halifax, and the differences there?
It's night and day. It's like you're investing in a business-friendly environment versus an extremely unfriendly environment. I don't know if that's a good word for it.
Hostile.
A very hostile. Like there, 2 months, worst case scenario, a tenant's out if they're,
2 months.
A delinquent tenant. Whereas here, it's, God knows, it could be a year if you're.
So, and this is what I'm trying to get into, is how you said you're going through some evictions right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's that how is that process look in America? What does that look like to you guys?
Man, the beauty of it is our property manager handles it all. This one girl takes care of it. So she tells me, but I just don't even remember. I think she files something that costs like $300 to a court, and then there's a hearing. You see, this is the beauty of it. I don't even know that well, but it's happening.
It doesn't come up in the Zoom call.
Yeah, because it's being handled.
Yeah.
So I wish I could tell you the specifics of it, but like this one lady that we bought it, she wasn't paying rent at all when we bought it. She was like months and months behind for the previous owner, so we started the eviction process immediately. So we bought this, I think. So, okay, actually there was some weird stuff because she was actually already in the middle of an eviction before we bought it. So
you just finished her off.
No, we couldn't because the old documents had the old owner's names on it. So they pretty much threw all of that away. And then we had the stuff from scratch in early June. Anyways, she's going to be gone next week, hopefully. So it's taken a couple months, but like there's a clear path for them to leave, and it's not costing us money besides that $300. Whereas here in Halifax, for one, like they can not pay rent for months and months on end. But then like if you just bite the bullet and want to pay them to leave,
yep,
it might cost you $5,000-$10,000.
It might cost you an arm and a leg or a kidney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. When I first got into the States stuff, one guy, I forget his name on Instagram, just said like why he's investing in the States is like, why am I investing somewhere where the rules are actively written against me versus somewhere where the rules are in my favor?
Yep.
That's kind of
100%
narrows it down.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Why on earth would I play in an area where I'm not wanted, whereas where I could play in an area where I'm welcomed?
Yeah. That's pretty much
right.
What it comes
like,
down to.
Why on earth would I go through the friction why would I fight against the current when I can just roll on the stream?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was just curious if you had any insight into the actual how, because it sounds very efficient. This person stopped paying rent in friggin' June.
Yeah.
And they're being evicted in September?
Yeah, very first week of September.
First eviction,
and
done.
This girl is very savvy. Like this is like worst case scenario. She was able to play the system in her favor, so she's able to drag it along for 2 months. But most of them aren't like that.
Yeah, and like the thing about that is, if you told someone in Halifax right now as a landlord that they could evict in 2 months, they'd probably cry tears of joy because of the process it takes to get out a delinquent tenant.
But you know the problem with that is now, like, it's like the idea of lifting the rent cap. I knew they would never just lift the 2% rent cap because
they increased it to 5.
They increased it to 5, which is better than nothing, I guess. But can you imagine the tsunami of rental increases that would have came after 2 years of not being? How long? It's been a couple of years since we haven't been able to raise taxes or rents.
2 years, 3 years,
yes.
2 or 3 years now.
Something like that. So, and all the expenses have gone up. Every single utility. Inflation's gone crazy. If you're on a variable mortgage, God knows what your mortgage went up to. And you have not been able to raise your rents by more than 2%. So it's like the whole city the rents would have been jacked up. And it would have been crazy.
If you're talking about Halifax, rents have been jacked up.
They're going up.
And landlords have adapted to fixed term.
Big time. All my stuff's fixed term. Anyone, if you place a tenant,
fixed.
It has to be fixed.
Fixed.
That's the only way you can insulate yourself and protect yourself. And there's talks about getting rid of that. So it's like, man.
I don't think they can. I'd be surprised if they could.
Man, they can. Will they? I hope not.
I don't think they will. I'd be surprised if they will, because there has to be.
Look at Ontario. Look at these other, we're trying to mimic these other places,
Ontario.
They don't have this. When I tell my Ontario friends about the fixed term, they're like, oh, that sounds amazing. Because that's literally the only thing that we have here in Nova Scotia.
That protects you.
That protects us. Because once that's gone.
The other one was actually short-term rentals.
Yeah.
But HRM just banned short-term rentals.
Someone told me the other day, I don't know if this is true, maybe they're trying, a group's trying to sue the city or something to try to delay. Is that true? Have you heard anything about that?
I'm very well versed. Who told you that? That's not public knowledge.
A friend.
Okay. It's funny because yeah.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
No, I know a little bit.
Okay.
I can talk about it because by the time this comes out, I hope they will have come to light. Yes, there was. I got word in end of June, early July, that the Airbnb owners and operators in HRM are getting together for a class action against HRM. I don't know what the class action was going to be, but then the province did something really interesting in the middle of August a few weeks ago that will give the class action teeth. So what they did was I don't know if you saw this or if the audience saw this, but the province of Nova Scotia announced a home sharing app that they invested 1.3 or 1.4 million taxpayer money into.
So they want their own little Airbnb. They want a piece of the pie.
Their idea, and with the housing minister, I read the headline. I didn't read the article.
Okay.
But at the time it was, if you want to solve, the pitch was like, if you want to solve homelessness, open up your homes to take people out of these camps in downtown Halifax, right? I can see the smirk. I can see the shit-eating grin. I'm just saying that was what they said.
Okay. I'm picturing, telling my wife, hey, let's let a homeless dude come live with us for a little bit. And not just that, but let's not use the actual home sharing app that's used around the world and has a viable operating company, Airbnb, and let's use the local one that the province just is in the process of building the app and figuring out the kinks. So it's so funny that when that came up, I happened to be talking to Avery Birch, who is the owner and operator of 365 Experience Inc., which operates over 100 Airbnbs in HRM. Does he arbitrage them or does he own them all? Do you know?
Arbitrage.
Okay.
You can listen to the podcast and you can find out for yourself. But when I was talking to Avery, it just so happened that I was seeing Avery anyway, and he brought up, I don't know, he's not part of that lawsuit. I know he's not in that class action. But he was saying that because the province announced that home sharing app, the class action from the Airbnb owners in HRM can now transition the lawsuit to be anti-competitive.
100%. 1,000%. They're silly. They should have waited to freaking pass the ban before they started this. No?
Well, HRM municipality is different than the provincial government.
Right.
They're two separate entities.
Wait, so who's creating the app?
Province. The province.
Okay, the provincial. Yeah,
the provincial government.
And they're the ones that are trying to make the ban happen.
Nope, HRM is. two separate entities.
Okay, gotcha.
Two separate entities. You could argue. I don't know if you can or not because I'm not a lawyer. Mm-hmm. You could argue government is government, but HRM municipal council is not the provincial legislation.
Gotcha.
They're two separate. By my understanding, I'm an actual idiot when it comes to politics, so please don't quote me. But I know for a fact that there is a group getting ready with a class action. If by the time this airs, if it has not come yet, the whole point and the intention of the class action was to delay the bylaws for a few years and get it tied up in courts before they could be implemented. I don't know if they were actually trying to win, but that home sharing app,
yeah, that's good for the Airbnb people.
It gives it some teeth. Mm-hmm. Now, it hasn't come to light yet, though. There's been nothing mentioned in this class action. I'm waiting for it to come out. I'm waiting to see it on socials, and I'm waiting to see it on Reddit because I know Reddit was going to hate that.
No, I've heard, so when my friend told me about this, I did some research myself, and there have been other lawsuits like this.
Yep.
But none have been successful. But none have had this app.
Well, that's part of it. Well, that's the interesting part, right? There's no teeth in it. That home sharing app by the provincial government.
They might have to ditch that, and then Airbnb could still be screwed.
It's
like New York. This went up pretty high.
Yes,
there, and they still lost. Airbnb lost that lawsuit.
Airbnb did not. I know for a fact Airbnb did not win in New York, but Airbnb is still in New York, which
not
is
much longer though. I don't think.
Okay, I'm not sure what I have no idea what the terms are.
I'm not sure.
As far as HRM is concerned, I don't actually like. This isn't supposed to be an Airbnb podcast, but we're here.
It's still a real estate investing.
Yeah, it's real estate investing. As far as the Airbnb bylaws are concerned, council has come out and said that they're going to review, and this is the first iteration. They're going to take it step by step as they get more data. The interesting thing will be to see, because you have to register now with the municipality of HRM.
Which I think that's reasonable.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with them registering. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I found really interesting came out yesterday that wasn't really clear. They said that you can Airbnb your primary residence if you're in a residential zoned area. Yesterday, they released a website with all the details regarding short-term rental bylaws, right? They say in that you cannot Airbnb your primary residence if you are away on vacation.
You can't.
You can't.
Wow.
So if you're sharing a bedroom, you have to be there sharing a bedroom.
Wild.
I thought that is an interesting thing that I did not know and I did not understand.
So if you have a roommate that's renting out your bedroom and then you go on vacation, what do? They got to leave?
I guess. I can't.
They got to go on vacation with you. Honestly, this just brings me back to the point of where it's just like so anti-business. This could give somebody an opportunity. They guys like me that are just shifting and doing other things. They can just buckle down and be like, no, I'm going to dominate this market as everybody leaves and it's hard. Good on you. You've
got enough people that are too scared to look outside of the province that are going to do that. Because you do have a lot of people that are leaving the province now to go invest in other places.
Big time, yeah.
Because it's more appealing in other parts of the world. And as everyone learned, with a good property manager, it's not that hard.
It's not
to really get a viable business going. Realistically, if you know and understand how to raise capital,
that's the skill, yeah.
You can apply that to any real estate portfolio, any parts of the world that suit you and what you're looking for, because there's always a property manager somewhere.
If you can raise capital effectively, man, that is a hell of a skill to have. That can get you, and you don't even have to know about real estate. You just need to be able to be personable and know how to raise capital, because you don't have to be raising capital for real estate. You could be doing it for
startups,
tech. Anything, and make stupid money. You can make stupid money. But again, that is an advanced skill to be doing it at that level, and it takes years and experience. But if you get there,
you're invaluable.
The world's your
if you know how to raise capital, it's literally like the game.
It is.
Right? Because as long as you can pitch it and pivot. The last thing I'll say about Airbnb and that game is they've nullified short-term rentals. If they're looking at fixed, that's horrible. Because it is the only way that you said it best, it's the only way that a landlord can insulate themselves and protect themselves from the market. People will argue, well, housing isn't a business. You can argue that all day long. Morally, I get it, but housing is a business because people are making money off it. So therefore, business.
Yeah, to its core it is. And that's like, you can't even argue that.
I know. People will though. The last thing I'll say about Airbnb is I never planned on operating an Airbnb in HRM. Like I bought an Airbnb. Like I'm very open about that.
This is when you're renovating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the house I'm renovating right now is a total Airbnb. I have a whole podcast on it coming out with my wife. We're sitting down. We're talking about everything together.
That's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. We talk about everything. The whole fucking journey, start to finish, about what we're doing, why we're doing it, the whole shebang.
Hell yeah.
But we specifically said, everyone asked why we moved where we moved outside of Halifax. And it was for that reason, because we were not going to invest in Halifax.
Gotcha.
That was the whole reason. We went away from Halifax, just not as far as you.
Yeah.
Right?
But I still live here.
Yeah.
At least you live far away.
Yeah, I moved far away. And that was, I mean, investing is getting where you fit in.
Yeah, honestly, I had a call with a guy just last week, and he wants to get into investing. But he's like, oh, I want to invest locally. I'm like, okay, cool. Why? He's like, I don't know. He didn't have a reason.
He's scared.
A little bit. But then when I broke it down for him, I'm like, do you actively want to be a part of the management of it all? Or like, do you just want to invest in something that's going to make you the maximum amount of money that's predictable? And he's like, yes, that. So I'm like, that's the case. Halifax probably not the move right now.
Yep.
Maybe. I mean, there could be that deal out there that, it's a nice vacant building that is a good affordable price, but it's like.
Do you know what? The only way when I talk to an investor nowadays and they call me for business, I'm out of the game. Mm-hmm. I don't work with investors anymore. Because if you're calling me, I said this to you off air, but if you're calling me, you don't know what you're doing. I'm working with the realtors on MLS, not a good deal, not going to cash flow. It's just not. It's no way in hell. There's no cash flowing deals in MLS. The only way you get a good deal as an investor in Halifax is through two things. Your network, who owns buildings that may be looking to retire and get out of the game.
Yep.
Or how hard you are willing to door knock.
Yeah. Door knock, letters, all that stuff.
The only way, you got to go straight to sellers. And
100%.
And you got to find someone that's willing to sell you a house that is for cents on the dollar. And if we get involved as realtors, probably not going to be cents on the dollar.
No, and especially on the bigger stuff, what I've found, there's a few guys, like realtors that I've come across that have just been in the game for decades. And they just have the connections and they have all the listings. So you can actually go to these guys and, try to buy these buildings from them because, like, they just have the deal flow. But at the same time, it's like even the numbers don't make sense.
But that's what I mean. As soon as you bring in the realtors, I just mean that wholeheartedly. Like, our job is to, if we're representing a client, right? If I'm representing a seller, we're there to protect the seller's best interests. And if you're working with the realtors who have the network, who have been in the game for 20, 30 years and know the network, they can open up doors and conversations that, quite frankly, I can't because I don't have those numbers.
No, man, I wish I could. There's this one specific deal I want to talk about, but I can't just 'cause there's an NDA involved. But just like there's off-market deals out there in the bigger multi-space that, like, if you have boatloads of cash, they can work. Or if you just...
Where's your boatload of cash?
It's families and REITs, like these multi-generational families, like they're the ones who buy them. But like this one deal, man, it was like, I guess I can say high level. It was bought off market. It was like 70, 80 units, awesome location. It was bought for like 30 million or so. And then like after a month or so, I think it reappraised for like 38. So it's like this person made $8 million spread of equity in a month. But he had to put like 50 or 60% down to buy this building because the rents were so depressed.
Yep.
So like he needed $18 million to close on this. So who has $18 million? And even for me, like I'd have to go raise $18 million cash. The return is not there unless like.
Well, how many hands? Well, we go back to that. How many hands are in the pot then? If you're trying to raise 18 million.
At that level, it's funny you say that because.
You know someone. I don't have 18 million on speed dial. I'm sorry.
No, I don't have 18, but at that point, you're no longer going to mom and pops and pulling out 50.
No, you're going to REITs.
You're going to REITs, or you're going to family offices. You're going to stupid rich people, and you have like 4 or 5 of them.
For the audience, real estate investing trust.
Yep.
REIT.
Big companies that just have cash.
Yeah.
You know, or like I said, family offices, or like you know. Damn, a hockey player. You know?
Hockey player.
Basketball player.
Sorry, I'll just call up Sid.
Just millionaires, right? You have to, as you level up into the bigger stuff and you're raising money. I was just talking about that with Ian and Thomas. It's like you have to kind of level up who your investors are, because these are big deals.
Well, the other thing though is, as you acquire more doors, as you grow and scale, every level I find unlocks new humans.
Yeah, it does.
Because if you're starting with one, there is a level field for a buttload of people. We'll go by boatload because you said it. There's a boatload of people at the one who are trying to get there first. They can all relate. They're all in the same game. They're all trying to understand. They're all trying not to lose money. You could have 5. There's a boatload of people at 5 who have managed 5 doors. They're 5 units in. They're trying to figure out how to get to 6. Then you get to 10, and there's a lot of people at 10. Every level is a different person with different shared experiences that they can bring to the table. Same thing at 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000. It just opens up the door to a different conversation, which is to a different human that has different access to different utilities than you are used to, because they're in a space that you've just entered.
Yeah. 100%,
right?
Yeah.
That is what leveling up is. It's just access to more people who are there for it. It's networking. Mm-hmm. You are, like everyone always says, oh, you are your network. You are your network.
Yeah, it's so cliche, but it's so
You are your
true.
network. It is not what you know, it is who you know. That is anything I've learned is who I knew, who could open up a door in a conversation for me to learn and access information that changed my life.
Yeah.
Always by who I knew.
I have a mentor. His name's Alfonso Quadra, and he's a saying, the only thing that's in between you and where you want to go
is a person.
Is people.
Yep.
So like meet those people and you can get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down
now,
to.
it's always the funny question of how do you meet these people?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you got to put in the work.
Where do you go? Where are these people? It's always my favorite thing is like when someone talks about trying to acquire something or do something big. It's like, well, like I'll get the question, who do I know that has a lot of money? And I go, I got people that raise money that I can call, but I don't, whether or not you can extract value or provide enough value from that human, that's an entirely different game. I can open up a door, but if you're not ready to play, then you're not ready to play.
No, you're not.
Right? Like some people, like one thing you could do if you're trying to get into these rooms, hey, people hate unpaid internships. Do you know what unpaid internships do? They open doors.
Yeah, or same idea, but like just paid mentorship.
Paid mentorship. Can I pay you to teach me how to be a you?
Exactly.
Coaching.
It's huge. Like I think that is like the biggest cheat code and hack in life to get to wherever you want to go, but just like way faster. You know what? So I joined this company, this investment group, Wealth Genius, last year, and my coach was an American named Thomas. And what is Thomas now? He's my partner. So if I didn't pay whatever the fee was to join Wealth Genius and get coached for a year, I wouldn't be where I am today. So like literally paying that, I think it was like 12 grand or maybe 10 at the time, has essentially made me 100 units richer.
12 grand up front, or was it paid over monthly?
You could do it. I think they have payment plans.
Yeah.
I just paid it.
The only reason I ask is because once again, this is where you get into the acquisition of affluence and privilege, because not everyone has access to $10,000, $12,000 to pay a Thomas.
There's payment plans.
Yeah, but like they're usually monthly, right? If you go by monthly, you're talking about $1,000 cash.
But people have no problem, and they don't hesitate to go drop 50 G's to go to university, get a Bachelor of Arts, man. You know, like, to get nothing.
That's a rabbit.
Let's go in it, because like people don't mind.
But if we're gonna talk about university, then fine. I'm not a university supporter. I didn't go.
I am kind of.
I don't. I've wholeheartedly told my wife I'm gonna wholeheartedly tell our children
don't go.
No, I'm not gonna tell them not to go.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I'm happy to pay for everything if I'm affluent enough, but I'm never paying for your education.
Really?
I'm never paying for their education. If they want a Bachelor of Arts degree, they can go pay for
What
that.
if they want to be a doctor?
They can pay for that. That is such a big debt.
Massive debt. $250,000 debt.
Especially even for doctors. It's 12 years.
Yeah. 8, like, best case scenario.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
just because I want them to understand the actual investment.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to understand what they're not just because someone told them, because we were all told it. If you go to school, you get a degree. A degree gets you a good job. I don't have a degree. I have exactly, I think it's 62 days of a university career under my belt, because that was the length of the Dallas soccer season.
No way. That's hilarious.
And that is exactly what it was.
But I do agree with you. Coming up with $12,000 can be expensive.
And you could argue that, and what do kids pay for in debt and student loans? But I would argue a student loan is much more accessible.
It is.
Than $12,000. You go to your bank and ask for $12,000 to give to a guy to coach you how to be a millionaire.
Yeah, you get line of credit or something.
They're gonna pick some pockets in that. You go to a university and you go to a bank and say, I need $12,000 to go to school. That is literally like, they can't wait to write that check.
They're so excited.
There is two different levels of leverage in that conversation that. And I don't want to bash university, because university is, as you say, doctors, lawyers. There's a great route for university. I'm just not there, and I'm personally saying this, I'm not there to blindly tell my kids, if you go to school, you're going to get a job. When in fact, the matter of the fact is, I know plenty of guys who have university degrees that are actually nowhere working anywhere near what their degree was.
Yeah, you have to be strategic about what you take.
It's not even strategic. I mean this honestly. The way I view the degree is the way I view housing, supply and demand. In the 90s and 2000s, if you were interviewing 10 people for the job, 1 or 2 had degrees. That was a value add back then, because it showed that you committed to something, that you worked through something, that you were educated a little more about a certain topic and nuance. Fair enough. Now you call for a job. 10 people apply, 10 people have degrees. It's been devalued. It doesn't carry the same weight because everyone has one. It doesn't carry the same weight because the C+ kids with 2.2 GPA still get a degree.
Do they ever?
Same thing as a 4.1 or whatever the hell. I think it's 4.2 is your highest for like a GPA, right? Whatever it is. They still get the same piece of paper. It's just become devalued because there's so much supply of it. There's no way now to separate yourself by a standard university degree. If you want to separate yourself through education, 9 times out of 10 nowadays, it's master's, which is an extra 4 years, or or a PhD, which is another 12, or it's a doctorate, or it just seems that they're tacking on more ways to, quite frankly, get more money out of you.
Didn't they just pass something today that said student loans will be no interest?
Fantastic.
I don't know if it's true.
Even if there's no interest on those student loans. Acadia is $12,000 a year, 4-year degree. That is
$48,000.
That is $48,000. Do I want my kid paying? Do I want my kid? What if I told my kid $48,000? If you could earn $48,000 in the next 4 years, and I'll let you bank it. You can just make $48,000. What do you think you can do with that $48,000 with today in 4 years' time? Than if you had it with a piece of paper and debt.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to bash school. I'm really not. It was never for me personally. I never wanted it. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't for me. It's not going to be for me. I'm happy it wasn't. I'm happy I didn't do it because, quite frankly, I have no student debt. I do very well in my career. I'm fine. So there's no extra payment that I have to worry about.
Yep.
I'm not against it.
Not at all.
I just want, for my kids, my wife and I have talked about this. Instead of paying for their school, we're giving them houses.
It's way better.
We are buying houses
when they're born, right?
Yes.
And then
when they're born, we will manage the properties. We will manage the asset, and they don't get it when they're 18. They get it when they're ready. And maybe they're never ready.
Or maybe they are ready when they're 18.
Maybe they are ready when they're 18. Is when they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
When I figure out that they're responsible and they can breathe and walk at the same time, right?
That's a good investment.
And rather than give it away via paying for school, which I don't know is a guarantee or not, and I don't know what the return is on that because I don't know what kind of student they will be.
Yeah, you don't know your kid. We're talking about these people that don't exist.
You know
yet.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I can guarantee them is, hey, guess what? This thing is mortgage free.
That's true. You know, your kid might be real smart.
My kid might be
get scholarships. You know?
My kid might be stupid as fuck.
Or that they could listen to this conversation 18 years from now.
What kid listens to their parent?
Man, I'm gonna make my kid listen.
Good
to my
luck.
Parent. I'm gonna when he's a kid. This my podcast is gonna go. On
I just that's where I'm at. Yeah. Is just with that is trying to figure out what the return is. I would just try and make sure that they understood what the debt looks like, and I would try to get them to understand what the minimum payment is and how many years it takes to pay off that minimum payment.
I feel like that's just like education you have to teach your kid.
100% financial literacy.
As soon as they can comprehend it. I know people. I had a conversation with this 12-year-old girl that was asking me the pros and cons of VTBs, like vendor take backs for your listeners. I'm like, damn, this girl's amazing. This kid is gonna have a 12. She said her first purchase was to get a 12-unit building before she's 16. I'm like, God damn.
Where the hell were you talking to her, this 12-year-old at?
I was with her dad. Like me and her dad are friends. But like this is the environment that the dad and the wife have put their kid into. They see the real estate world. They see finances, and this is just kind of what they see and what they think. And I'm like, this is amazing. This kid's going to be financially incredibly intelligent.
Well, that's the thing, right? You have to introduce topics to these kids. I mean, if you're talking about children, we were going to try and introduce real estate early on.
ASAP, when they're 2, when they can walk.
God,
as soon as they can freaking throw a hammer.
Here's a hammer. Go knock out that wall.
She's helping you guys with these renovations that you're doing. And then you can, when they understand math, you can teach them how a mortgage works.
Yeah, oh God. I mean, the idea is financial literacy, and then they can make their own call. 100%. Right? But I don't believe in funding them. I don't. I believe in giving them assets. And if they burn the assets, they burn the assets. They can make their own call. I don't believe in just giving someone a check. Mm-hmm. No. In my experience, giving someone a check has never gone well.
Yeah. Obviously what we're talking about here is generational wealth. But at the same time, it's, I forget how the terminology, but it's like generational knowledge. It's like everything that you've learned about investing in your life, you can now pass it along to your kid. Because you can just give them your money. Yep. But if they don't know anything about how to save it or grow it,
you're giving them a cancer. They'll
just burn it, and who knows what they'll do, right? But like if you teach them the knowledge, look at it. We're talking like we have kids, man. This is hilarious.
Yeah, we're not parents.
We're not
parents.
We're talking about how we're going to parent our kids.
No.
Take everything we say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, this is we haven't traveled that road yet, but I promise you, it will not go as smoothly as we say.
No, it will
like
not.
I said, what kid listens to their parent?
Yeah, that's true. I know it's going to be tough.
But you've done well. Like you've acquired. Back on topic, 100 doors in 120 days.
Yep.
You're closing on the third one in the next week?
Yep.
What's next?
Oh, man, there's a lot. I mean, we're in talks about looking into a 149 unit in Texas, but that one's still pretty up in the air. Yeah, we're kind of just going with the flow here. In my own personal life, I'm kind of locally, I'm transitioning into more like business acquisitions. I'd like to buy some businesses, not specifically real estate related.
Commercial asset. Hey, you could Airbnb those by new laws.
Yeah, but I mean even just like friggin' a grocery store,
car wash,
gas station.
Diversifying.
I actually have a gas station that's like supposed to be coming in my way here. So just something like that, something that just makes money. They don't have to appreciate that crazy. I don't care about principal pay down. This is just something that's going to put money in my pockets every month, you know?
Yeah.
If I can have like, let's say hypothetically like 10 different businesses over the next couple of years and they all give me $4 or $5 grand and I have an operator attached to them as well. So like I'm not actively in the business, but it's just my money that's in the business type of thing. I'm pretty much buying myself an income through other businesses. And then I can take that income and then funnel it into real estate. That's kind of the end goal of it all.
Manny, we got to go.
Yeah. We've gone long, eh?
You gave me 15 minutes more than you said you wanted to.
That's all right.
My man, I appreciate it. Congratulations on all the success. We'll have you back soon, okay?
Please do. I can't wait. We'll chat again.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Thank you so much for listening to the entire podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with Manny, you can reach him on his social media accounts, which are in our show notes, or at manny@venturecocapital.com. You can also find Manny on his own podcast, Refined Real Estate Podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach me at 902-220-7357 or jason@infinityrealestategroup.ca. Thanks again. Bye.